The glass tower of Han Group shimmered in the morning light, its logo gleaming like a crown above the city. Employees scurried through the lobby, murmuring about one thing: the return of the CEO's new vice president. "Did you hear? She used to work here as a secretary," one whispered. "Impossible. The new VP is from Europe. She's supposed to be brilliant." Inside the private elevator, Emma Lee adjusted her pearl earrings. Her reflection stared back at her, a calm woman in a white suit, eyes sharp as a blade. No trace of the timid assistant remained. 5 years ago, she'd been his assistant, working late nights, managing his schedule, protecting his reputation. Then one day, the board accused her of embezzlement. He, Daniel Han, CEO of Han Group, had stood before the board, cold and distant. "I trusted you, Emma. But the evidence is clear." The memory still burned. Her heart had shattered, but her mind had not. Now she had returned, not as a servant, but as a predator. The elevator doors opened to the executive floor. Daniel was waiting. He hadn't changed, still tall, composed, wearing the same expensive suits and the same unreadable expression. But his eyes widened, just a little when he saw her. "Emma," he said slowly. She smiled, tilting her head. "Vice President Lee." "Daniel. I believe you received my appointment notice." His brows furrowed. "You how?" "Let's discuss it in your office," she interrupted, walking past him. The sound of her heels on the marble floor echoed like a countdown. When the door closed behind them, the tension thickened. Daniel's tone was cautious. "Why are you here? Who sent you?" Emma turned, her gaze calm. "The board. Or rather, the real owner of Han Group." He froze. She leaned closer, voice soft but lethal. "You see, Daniel, you were too busy building your empire to realize the truth. The former chairman, your uncle, wasn't your only heir. He had a daughter." His eyes widened. "And she," Emma said, her lips curving, "was your loyal assistant." For a moment, silence. Then the clock ticked once, loud in the still air. Daniel stared at her, disbelief flickering to something darker, regret. "You're lying." "Am I?" she said. "Check the documents the board received this morning. Every share, every title, transferred to me." Her tone softened, but her gaze stayed cold. "You took everything from me once. Now I'm taking back what's mine." The next day's headlines exploded. Han Group welcomes hidden heir as new vice president. Ex-assistant returns. Power struggle looms. Inside the mansion once owned by Daniel's uncle, Emma walked through the grand halls she used to clean after hours. Now, servants bowed to her. "Welcome home, Miss Lee," they said. Home. The word felt heavy. She entered her father's old study. Dust had gathered on the framed photo, her father and Daniel's uncle shaking hands. Old allies, until greed had divided them. Daniel's family took control, and Emma's mother had fled overseas with her. Now, the daughter had returned to finish what her parents started. Her phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. "Daniel, we need to talk. Tonight." "Emma, about business or your conscience?" "Daniel, both." She almost deleted it, but curiosity flickered. Revenge didn't mean she had no heart. It only meant she no longer trusted it. The city glittered like spilled diamonds as Emma Lee stepped out of the car. The rooftop restaurant was quiet, private, elegant, and far above the chaos below. It was Daniel's territory, as always. He was waiting at a corner table, his sleeves rolled up, his tie undone. The picture of composure, except for his eyes. Those eyes held the same sharpness she remembered, the same danger that once made her trust him too easily. "Emma," he greeted, standing. She sat without returning it. "Vice President Lee," she corrected. "Formality suits our situation better." A flicker of something, pain? Amusement? Crossed his face. "You've changed." "Of course," she said, pouring herself wine. 5 years of betrayal will do that." He leaned back, watching her. "You think I framed you?" "I don't think," she said softly. "I know." Daniel's jaw tightened. "The board found the documents, the missing funds." "Which you conveniently discovered," she cut in. "Right after I refused to forge your uncle's signature." That made him go still. A silence stretched between them, tense as a wire. She smiled. A little bitterly. You see, Daniel, you taught me how to fight in this world. I only wish you hadn't chosen me as your first casualty. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, I didn't know, he said quietly. My uncle, he. But Emma waved a hand. Don't waste your breath. You're not my concern anymore. I'm here to rebuild Han Group, not your reputation. He stared at her like she was a stranger. You came back to destroy me. No, she said, standing. I came back to restore balance. Her phone buzzed. A message from her aide. Board meeting moved to 9 a.m. tomorrow. Preliminary vote ready. Perfect. Tomorrow, she said, looking him dead in the eye. The board will decide who truly deserves this company. She left him there, in that golden, lonely light. His own reflection staring back at him through the glass. Back in her car, Emma allowed herself a deep breath. Outside, rain began to fall, soft against the windows. She looked down at the small pendant she wore, a silver locket, her mother's. Inside was a photograph. Her father, standing beside a man who wasn't Daniel's uncle. The real founder of Han Group. Her father, the first chairman, erased from history when his business partner betrayed him. That betrayal had destroyed her family. Now, the daughter of that forgotten founder was rewriting the story. The boardroom was a battlefield dressed in suits. Directors whispered, glancing between Daniel and Emma. On the table sat a stack of documents. Proof of share transfers, inheritance rights, and the old chairman's final will, recently unearthed from the archives. Miss Lee, one director said cautiously, you claim these are authentic? Emma smiled coolly. I don't claim. I prove. Her assistant placed certified copies in front of each member. Daniel's expression was unreadable as he scanned the pages. Then, slowly, he looked up. You went to my uncle's lawyer, he said. Yes, Emma said. He was more than willing to speak when I showed him the original partnership agreement. The one your uncle tried to bury. Murmurs rippled through the room. The truth, she continued, her voice steady, is simple. Han Group was built by two men. My father and your uncle. When your uncle betrayed him, my family lost everything. I grew up watching my mother work 2 jobs while your family lived in mansions built on stolen dreams. Daniel stood abruptly. Enough. Why? Emma asked quietly. Does the truth make you uncomfortable? His silence was her victory. The chairman of the board cleared his throat. The evidence is clear. Miss Lee's claim is legitimate. Effective immediately, her ownership stake is recognized. Applause broke out, polite, cautious, but real. Emma exhaled slowly. Her revenge was no longer a fantasy. It was law. She looked across the table at Daniel. His expression was calm, but his eyes held something else, resignation. Or maybe admiration. As the meeting ended, he approached her quietly. You win, he said. But tell me something, Emma. Does it feel the way you imagined? She hesitated. Then she whispered, not yet. The city below glowed like an endless web of light. From the rooftop terrace of Han Group, Daniel Han stood alone, watching the skyline he once ruled. The empire that bore his name now belonged, in truth and in law, to the woman he'd cast aside. He'd thought power meant control. But now, all his control had turned to dust. Behind him, the door opened. He didn't need to turn to know who it was. Still enjoying the view? Emma's voice carried softly, carried by the wind. He smiled without humor. You always liked heights. I suppose it's fitting. You came back just to climb higher than me. She walked to his side, her heels silent against the marble. The lights reflected in her eyes, sharp and distant. I didn't come back to climb. I came back to reclaim. He looked at her for a long time. You really are his daughter. Yes, she said, her tone flat. And you're still his nephew. A shame neither of you learned how to love without destroying everything. Daniel's gaze hardened. You think you know everything. But you don't. Emma crossed her arms. Then enlighten me. He took a deep breath. The day you were accused, I didn't set you up. She froze. He continued quietly. I found the documents. I believed they were yours. But the one who handed them to me was my uncle's secretary. He said he got them from you. I didn't question it. I was stupid. I wanted to prove I could protect the company. Emma's eyes narrowed. And you never thought to ask me? To trust me? He met her gaze. I was afraid of what trusting you meant. The words hung between them. Heavy. She laughed, but it was soft and sad. You were afraid to trust me. I was afraid to lose you. I guess fear won. He stepped closer, voice lower now. If I could undo it. You can't, she cut in. You destroyed me once, Daniel. You don't get to save me now. The wind whipped around them, sharp and cold. Then she turned to leave, but he caught her wrist gently. Emma. She paused. I know I have no right to ask, he said quietly. But please, when you take everything, leave something for me to rebuild. For a heartbeat, something flickered in her eyes. Pity, maybe. Or the ghost of the love she'd buried. Then she pulled free. Rebuild yourself. Daniel. That's all I'll leave you. And she walked away, her figure disappearing into the elevator's golden light. Later that night, in her mansion, Emma stood before her father's old portrait. You see, father, she whispered. I did it. I took back everything he stole. But the silence of the room pressed back, and she realized that revenge, no matter how complete, could not fill the space where trust once lived. Her phone vibrated. A message from her assistant. The secretary has confessed. Mr. Hahn's uncle forged the documents. Daniel didn't know. Emma stared at the words, the room spinning slightly. For the first time in years, she didn't know whether to feel victory or regret. The following morning, the press swarmed outside Hahn Group headquarters. Daniel Hahn resigns. Vice President Lee to assume control as CEO. Flashes burst like fireworks as Emma walked through the crowd, escorted by security. She'd won. Completely. But inside the elevator, as the doors closed, her reflection looked hollow. Power had never looked so lone. Away. Rain fell again, fine and silver, tracing long lines down the windows of Daniel Hahn's penthouse. Boxes filled the living room. The walls, once hung with art and ambition, looked bare. Daniel stood at the window, a man stripped of everything but regret. The sound of the door opening behind him didn't surprise him. He didn't turn. You came. Emily stepped inside, the click of her heels echoing softly. I came for the company records, she said. Legal transfer is tomorrow. Of course. His voice was calm, but distant. Always about business with you now. She hesitated. It was always business between us, wasn't it? That made him smile faintly. No. That was the problem. She looked around the penthouse, the same place where she once stayed late into the night sorting his files, drinking instant coffee while he worked on reports. Those nights had felt like a future. Now they were only ghosts. Daniel finally faced her. His eyes were tired, but there was something new in them. Acceptance. I read your father's will, he said. He wrote about you. Said you'd build something greater than he ever could. Emma's lips parted slightly. You read it. I asked the lawyers for a copy. He also said to forgive those who wronged you, so that your heart wouldn't turn into theirs. Her throat tightened. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. No, he said quietly. But it might save your future. For a moment, silence filled the room. The rain outside softened to a hush. She finally said, I thought revenge would feel like justice. But it only feels like silence. He nodded once. Silence isn't so bad. It means the war is over. She turned to go, but he stopped her again. Emma. She looked back. I'm leaving the country tomorrow. There's nothing left here for me, he said. But I'll always remember the woman who taught me what loyalty actually meant, after I destroyed it. Her eyes softened for just a second. Then she smiled, a real, small smile. Goodbye, Daniel. Goodbye, Miss Lee. She left without looking back. That night, Emma stood in her father's old office, the same room where the company had begun. The rain had stopped, and moonlight painted the desk in silver. She opened the top drawer and placed the silver locket inside. Then she whispered, It's done, Father. I've taken back our name. Now it's time to start something new. Outside the window, the city lights shimmered, and for the first time, they didn't look like weapons. They looked like possibilities. Weeks later, Han Group, now Lee Han Corporation, was thriving again. Emma worked quietly, not as the vengeful heir, but as the leader she'd always wanted to be. She rebuilt departments, promoted loyal staff, and funded scholarships in her father's name. Every decision felt lighter now. One morning, her secretary entered. "Miss Lee, this came for you." No sender's name. It was a single envelope. Inside, a photograph. It was a picture of the sea. On the back, one short message. "You finally moved your piece, Queen." She stared at it for a long time before tucking it into her planner. A year later, the Lee Han headquarters opened a new branch, the Han Innovation Center, named after both founding families. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony, reporters crowded around her. "President Lee, is there anyone you'd like to dedicate this success to?" Emma smiled faintly. "To the people who taught me that loyalty is the sharpest weapon, and the rarest treasure." When the ceremony ended, she stepped out onto the balcony overlooking the city. The air was clear, the sky pale with dawn. Somewhere, she imagined, Daniel was watching the same sunrise. Her heart didn't ache anymore. It simply beat, strong and steady. Revenge had ended. The empire was hers. But forgiveness, that was hers too. And that was the real victory. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more original novel stories. And stay tuned, our next story is coming soon.